We got 7 different stories to cover from the 7 different media outlets. It is time for another episode of the world's news round. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another premiere video of the world's news round, where I cover various different stories from outside the UK, and I've got 7 different stories for you guys today here on the world's news round. This is being recorded on Thursday, the 19th of December at 2024 at around 14:09 UK time. This is just for reference in case there are updates on some of these stories. So the 7 stories we're going to be covering, the first one we will cover is from Al Jazeera, where the Houthis said at least 9 have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on Yemen. The second one we'll be looking at from the Associated Press, where Trump brings chaos back to Washington by attempting to kill the bipartisan budget deal with Musk's help. So that's subject to change, from the time of this recording. Next one will be from CNN, and at least 127 people, mostly civilians, have been killed in 2 days in Sudan's bombardments. From Central News Asia, Hong Kong arrests 25 people, identifies 14 unscrupulous agencies amid university admission fraud crackdown. You will then look at a piece from the Middle Eastern Eye, headlined as Syria will establish strategic relationships with Turkey, says HTS leader. That'd be an interesting one to read. We're also going to be looking at an interesting one in Latin America from the BBC. Los Zetas Cartel boss has been rearrested in Mexico after US jail time. And then finally, we'll look at one piece from the Kiev Independent, where Ukraine's parliament has passed a bill dissolving medical commissions after corruption scandals. Very interesting stories indeed. And we'll also have 2 funny videos in between to break the ice of them as well. So let's get started with the first one here. So the Houthis said at least 9 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes on Yemen. The Israeli military attacked power plants, a port and an oil facility in Houthis and Sana'a in response to the Houthi missiles. So the question that I've read this story, and since now that Israel obviously things have tensions have eased obviously since a brokered ceasefire agreement has been made between Hezbollah and Israel. They're still continuing the conflict within Gaza, and I haven't heard too much lately about strikes and attacks that Israel are doing in Syria, but we'll not be surprised if they're still doing them. But I'm just thinking, just how far would Israel go? Would Israel launch a ground invasion or something on the Houthis in Yemen? I don't think they would, but this attack is something that they've long been trying to do, like some kind of retaliation on the Houthis in Yemen, because they have been very, very frustrating. They have tried to launch counts of attacks from where they are all the way to Israel and have not been successful. They have disrupted the global market due to their position in the Red Sea as well. And they've been a great deal of frustration for global markets and for many Western nations. However, I consider their actions justifiable for what they're doing. They're standing up for what they believe, right? They believe what's happening in Gaza is wrong, and Israel should pay for their crimes. Now, do I agree with with what they are doing inside Yemen? Absolutely not. I don't agree with some of the treatment that Yemenis people are being treated as not being so kind. But the Houthis, who have been part of this so-called axis of resistance against Israel, is really starting to falter. We've had Hamas being quite suppressed by what's happening in Gaza. Hezbollah have now been sedated, shall we say, to an extent, by the ceasefire agreement. You now have Syria. We don't know what's going to happen with Syria still. There's still much to talk about there. And Iran, as its main backer, is losing a lot of allies as friends. And Russia are pulled out completely of the Middle East. So the Houthis are dead reliant on Iran to keep them supplied. And you just wonder, how much is this going to go? They've been there for quite a long time, the Houthis. You know, the civil war in Yemen has been going on for a long time. It's not one really talked about. It's really not one really talked about at all, but it is still there. And Israel are making it very, very clear that they are prepared. And this attack here may be a sign that this could be the first of many strikes that Israel could be conducting against the Houthis in Yemen, possibly. So let's read a bit into it. A series of intense Israeli air attacks shook Yemen's capital and port city, killing at least 9 people, according to reports by the Houthi-controlled media. Israel's military said it attacked military targets belonging to Houthi fighters in the western coast strip and deep inside Yemen on Thursday morning after intercepting a missile fired by the group towards Israel. Targets said they are used by the Houthi forces for their military operations, the military said in a statement. Al Mazari TV, the main news outlet run by Yemen's Houthi movements controlling much of the country, said 7 people were killed in an Israeli attack on the port of As Alifs and the rest of the 2 strikes on the Ras Askia oil facility. Both are located in the western province of Hodaraski. The enemy launched 4 aggressive raids targeting the port and 2 raids targeting an oil facility, Al Maskia had reported. The series of aggressive raids also target the 2 central power stations south and north of the capital, Sana'a, it added. Yemen's SABA news agency also reported that 4 raids targeted Hodadiski. If I mispronounce names, I do apologise in advance. With 2 hitting the Ras Iska oil facility, killing and injuring some of its employees. So this here, Israeli airstrikes in Yemen. Israeli forces killed at least 9 people, bombarding 2 power stations in Sana'a and 2 ports in an oil facility, alleging that those were Houthi sites. That's what they're claiming. So, and just coloured in green Houthi, the greys, Ansela, and forces aligned with internationally recognised government here. So, this is, so you can see the orange there. As I said, this is the territory that block there where Sanya and Houthi, that's what's actually controlled by the Houthis, or rebel Houthis if you want to call them that. And then the rest is the Yemeni controlled government, internationally recognized. And then also you have the Al Qaeda links groups as well. So it's not as straightforward as just a civil war there. So yeah, the Houthis have been in control for quite a long time, including holding the capital of Yemen as well. So they've not had peace for a long time, the country. So there's a long history here as well. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Haragi said its forces had carried out attacks on the Houthi military sites, including ports and energy infrastructure in Sanya, following the firing of a Houthi missile towards Israel overnight, which was destroyed, and repeated attacks over the past 14 months. On Thursday, the Houthis said they had carried out an operation targeting 2 sensitive military targets in Israel's Yafa area, south of Tel Aviv, with 2 ballistic missiles. The operation has successfully achieved its objectives, read a statement published on Yemen's state news agency Saba. It said the attacks took place simultaneously with Israeli air raids on civilian infrastructure in Sanya and Hodariska. The Israeli aggression will not deter Yemen and the Yemenis from performing their religious and moral duties in response to the massacre in the Gaza Strip, it said. Houthi fighters in Yemen have carried out months of attacks on Israel and shipping links to Israel in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Dan in what it says is a campaign of solidarity with Palestinians amid Israel's war on the Gaza Strip, which has killed more than 45,000 people, the majority being women and children. Posted on X after the Israeli strikes, the Defense Minister Israel Katz said, "I warned the leaders of the Houthi terrorist organization. Israel's long hand will reach you as well. Whoever raises a hand against the state of Israel, its hands will be cut off. Whoever's harmed will be harmed 7-fold." Separately, President Isaac Herzog thanked Israeli soldiers, claiming that they inflicted a heavy blow to the Houthis, who said he sought to harm Israel and the entire region. In recent hours, we have witnessed the tremendous capabilities of the Air Force in protecting the citizens of Israel and in the attacks against the Houthis in Yemen, he said on X. Mohammed al-Bakini, a member of the Houthis political bureau, claims the US is part of the recent Israeli attack on his country. The US-Israeli bombing of civilian facilities in Yemen, power stations and ports, reveals the truth about West's hypocrisy and refutes all its humanitarian claims, he said, adding the attacks will not stop Houthis from supporting Gaza. We will meet escalation with escalation until genocide crimes in Gaza stop, and food, medicine, and fuel are allowed to enter its residence, he added on X. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Imran Bagheri, meanwhile, said the latest Israeli strikes in Yemen constitutes a gross violation of the principles of norms of international law and the UN Charter. Israel's actions were being carried out under the unconditional support of the United States. Washington is an accomplice in the lawlessness and crimes of the criminal gang ruling Tel Aviv, he added. Speaking to Al Jazeera from Sanya, Hassan, a pro-Houthi political commentator, said Israel conducted about 13 attacks in Yemen on Thursday. Those attacks came as retaliation from Israel against Yemen because Yemen has been conducted on a weekly basis attacks either on Israel directly or on the Red Sea or in any ship that is actually aiding the Zionist state of Israel. And he said that even though Houthi attacks against Israel and its blockages in the Red Sea have not stopped Israel's war on Gaza, it has resulted in the closure of the Elegant port south of occupied Palestine, as well as the increased costs in Israel because now ships linked to Israel cannot use the Red Sea and have to go round Africa. This is actually causing some damage against the Zionist state economy. Yemen has said clearly that it will not stop these attacks unless the Israeli regime will stop its attacks against Gaza, lift the blockages and withdraw from Gaza, the commentator has added. That's not going to happen. The intention is very, very clear on what's happening there. But I will say that obviously there's not read too many reports about Yemen being attacked by Israel, but I believe that there'll be a lot more of these, especially if Israel doesn't at the moment, as far as I'm at the time of this recording, there's no attacks towards Iran, but that can entirely change as well. And at the moment, these strikes are obviously if they're not a warning shot already, there are going to be more to come. Do I think America was directly involved in this airstrike? I honestly don't know. Is it possible they could be? Yes. Would I be surprised if they was? No. I don't think they are. I don't think personally they are, but I could be wrong. But unfortunately, given the situation, rather than actually stop what they're doing and actually look to secure peace in Gaza with and negotiate a good agreement with Hamas, they're continuing to do what they do. And they've called the ire and irate from the rest of the Middle East. Israel are very much not liked and hated for many, many reasons on top of what's happening now, given the history as well. So it is because of the backing of the West and the backing of US that they are still able to do what they are doing. That is for sure. So the next story, like I said, this one could be subject to change because obviously this is being recorded on Thursday. So it's entirely possible that a bipartisan budget bill may get through by the time you guys see this. Apologies for something in my eye. This one is from the Association Press. So Trump brings chaos back to Washington by attempting to cure bipartisan budget deal with Musk's help. I just think this is an attempt by... I really do think this is just to stir up more. Because I feel like things have just calmed down a little bit since the Trump election now. A little bit. And I say a little bit. And I feel like this is just an attempt to kind of, smear the Democrats more as much as they possibly can. I mean, they're going to be smearing them to hell when they get into power with some of the plans that they're doing. But, why not just let this go through? Like, why do they need to do this? Like, why can't they just, when they're in power, they can do whatever the hell they want? Why can't they just let the government and let Republicans and Democrats who agreed on this bipartisan bill, why does it have to be scuppered? Like, he's claiming that obviously there's too much money in this, and it's just... Anyways, let's read into this. So, President-elect Donald Trump has delivered a likely death blow to bipartisan congressional budget negotiations last Wednesday, rejecting the measure as a full of giveaways to Democrats after billionaire ally Elon Musk whipped up outrage towards the bill and cheered on Republican lawmakers who announced their opposition. Trump's joint statement with Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, which stopped the bill in its tracks, punctured a day-long torrent of social media posts by Musk attacking the legislation for what he described as excessive spending. "Stop the steal of your tax dollars," Musk wrote on social media platform X. as he dangled primary challenges against anyone who voted for the budget deal, a threat Trump later echoed in a post of his own. The episode showcased the growing political influence of Musk, who Trump has selected alongside entrepreneur Vix Van Wormley to spearhead the Department of Government Efficiency. That's Doge. A non-government task force formed to find ways to fire federal workers, cut programs, and reduce regulation. Oh, God. Republican Andy Barr, Republican from Kentucky, said his office was flooded with calls from constituents. My phone was ringing off the hook, he said. The people who elected us are listening to Elon Musk. In his statement with Vance, Trump said Republicans should restart negotiations over the legislation, arguing that anything else is a betrayal of our country. He also called for inclusion and extension of the debt ceiling while Joe Biden is in office. Increasing the debt ceiling is not great, but we'd rather do it on Biden's watch, they said. If Democrats won't cooperate on a debt ceiling increase now, what makes anyone think that they would do it in June during our administration? Let's have this debate over the debt ceiling now. Trump's opposition to what considered a must-pass legislation re-injected a sense of chaos and political brinkmanship. He was reminiscent of his first term in office. It was a dramatic turn of events for House Speaker Mike Johnson, who negotiated the bill and had been undermined by Trump as he faces re-election for his post in just a couple of weeks. Republicans might have a slim majority, raising the possibility of a replay of leadership disputes that paralyzed the House a year ago. Many lawmakers were in the middle of holiday and year-end celebrations with staff when Trump came out against the legislation. We've been here 14 years, okay, so nothing up here surprises me anymore, said Republican Steve Womack, a senior Republican appropriator from Kansas. We shouldn't be in this mess. The Biden administration criticized the possibility of a shutdown. Republicans need to stop playing politics with this bipartisan agreement, or they will hurt hard-working Americans and create instability across the country, said White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. Governor Noskis, president for Americans for Tax Reform and a veteran of Washington's budget battles, was concerned about the lack of a clear plan for resolving the dispute. There's got to be a second part of the strategy, he said. Noskis has been enthusiastic about Musk's ability to generate public attention for efforts to reduce the size of government, but he suggests that the owner of the space rocket program wasn't the right person to spearhead the congressional spending debate. He doesn't know politics, he knows physics, he said. But others weren't thrilled with Musk's involvement. In 5 years of Congress, I'm awaiting a fundamental change in the dynamic. Post-Republican Dan Bishop, a Republican from North Carolina, it has arrived. Musk began criticizing the measures as soon as it was released on Tuesday evening, and he continuously posted about it on Wednesday. Any member of the House or Senate who votes for this outrageous spending bill deserves to be voted out in 2 years, he wrote. He also called it one of the worst bills ever written. Okay. Sometimes Musk amplifies false claims, such as the idea that the legislation included $3 billion for a new football stadium in Washington. In reality, the legislation would transfer ownership of the land from the federal government to the city, paving the way for eventual development. Musk appears embroiled by his experience. The voice of the people was heard, Musk spoke. This was a good day for America. Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries said the fallout would be Republicans' fault. You break the bipartisan agreement, you own the consequences that follow, he wrote on X. Like I said, this was obviously several days ago at the time of this recording, so it's entirely possible that they may, and I say may have worked out an agreement. But this is going to be the first of much chaos coming towards the American people under a Trump administration that's going to be coming in. Oh, the things have only just gotten started. I mean, you know, I say to Americans, they think it's bad now. Just wait. You know, if you're expecting your lives to improve in the next 4 years, well, we'll see. We'll really see if your lives improve in the next 4 years. I generally don't think he's going to bring the cost of living down for Americans. I know some people feel that it's better to just rip up the whole system that they have, American system. But do you really want millionaires and billionaires making that decision? Because that's exactly what his cabinet pick is. Pretty much mainly filthy rich people. And their agenda is obviously to enrich themselves, not to help ordinary people. Especially when some of them have never even known what it's like to live in any kind of poverty as well. So don't have much faith in them, guys. I really don't. The next story I have for you guys is from CNN. So at least 127 people, mostly civilians, were killed in 2 days in Sudan bombardments. So more bombardments taking place in Sudan. The civil war is still going on. There was talk a while ago of potentially bringing people around the table, but I don't have much faith in that. This conflict has been going on for far too long. Well, I say that it's been more than a year, but either way, in comparison to other conflicts, but still, the amount of displacement that has been caused as a direct result of this war has been catastrophic. We're talking about 15 plus million people have been displaced as a direct result of it, or even as far as much as 25 million people. And many of them have obviously fled to other countries or have tried to flee to Europe to seek salvation and a better life for themselves. And by sitting by the Western government and the rest of the world sitting on their hands and knees while this continues to happen, this is making global migration worse as well. As there is a cost to all this as well. It's shameful. So at least 127 people, mostly civilians, were killed in Sudan on Monday and Tuesday by barrel bombs and shelling from warring sides, activists have said. The 20-month-old war between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces, that's the RSF, have been turning increasingly bloody as ceasefire efforts have stalled, and crises elsewhere have dominated world attention. The army has stepped up airstrikes in half of the country that the RSF controls, while the RSF has staged raids on villages and intensified artillery strikes. Both have targeted dense populated civilian areas, and civilians have basically been caught in the crossfires of all this. More than 8 barrel bombs hit the market in North Darfur in the town of Kabita on Monday, the pro-democracy Al-Fashia Resistance Committee had said. Emergency lawyers and human rights groups said more than 100 had been killed and 100 wounded. The army has frequently targeted towns in North Darfur with airstrikes as it fights the RSF for control of the state capital, Al-Fashia, the last foothold in the region. It denied responsibility for the attack on Kababigia, while insisting it had the right to target any location used by the RSF for military purpose. The RSF did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So this is those giving prayers to those who have lost their bodies, lost their lives. An image shared by emergency lawyers shows shrouded bodies in mass graves. The videos verified by Reuters show bodies strewn around the market. It also shows fires burning and people being carried from the wreckage of stores and fruit stalls. People can be heard crying and screaming in the footage, while others prayed for those who were killed. One man is heard saying, "People are dying wholesale." This war is horrible. This war is just one that's just not talked about just because of where it is. The video also shows armed men in the head wraps, typically worn by RSF soldiers on motorcycles. An activist from Kalabiska said that while there were typically a few soldiers in the market in other parts of the town, the vast majority of those present were civilians. And he said 87 bodies had been identified, but that some were too charred or mutilated to identify. On Tuesday, the RSF aimed heavy artillery fire at army control sector of Omdurman, part of the Khartoum state, residents had said. An emergency lawyer said at least 20 people had been killed, including at least 14 who were riding on a bus that were hit. The state government, controlled by the army, said 65 people had been killed and other casualties had been transferred to a nearby Al Nong hospital. Images circulating on social media, not verified by Reuters, showed shroud bodies on the streets amid a vehicle wreckage. And the United States has said more than 30 million people need aid, and some 12 million have fled their homes. Famine had been declared in the Zamzam camp in North Darfur, where shelling on Tuesday killed 7 people, according to Adam Roscoe, a spokesperson for the Coordinated Committee for Displaced People. A needlessly loss of life that did not need to happen. But unfortunately, that is the situation that they are going through right now. My heart goes out to them. It's just brutal, and it's very frustrating, obviously, as well, because while there are some medias in Sudan, most of their safety is not always guaranteed. Obviously, they're more safer with the Sudanese army rather than the rapid support forces over this civil war. But so many innocent people in the crossfire in all of this as well. And there have been reports of ethnic cleansing, of committing acts of potential genocide by the rapid support forces on some of the people in Sudan, although they have strongly denied that they have done any ethnic cleansing or raided villages and whatnot, pillaged them. They denied that, the rapid support forces, and I've not seen footage of it, but I would not be surprised if there was footage, and I'm not going out of my way to look at footage from Sudan, considering some of it is pretty horrific, that I've covered in the past. So yeah, it's a troubling situation, and it's one that not just the international body, the United Nations, not just enough that it's not just enough for people saying it. It's about action. It's about forcing the hands of these two these two sides, and the strongest bodies like America can really do have some sway in this. And I really do hope that there is more pressure applied on both sides of this conflict, because too many innocent people are dying as a direct result of it. Too many people displaced, too many people suffering as a result of this outrageous war that should never have happened in the first place. Moving away from Sudan all the way over to Asia. This one is from CNA, Central News Asia, guys. So Hong Kong has arrested 25 people and identifies 14 unscrupulous agencies amid a university admissions fraud crackdown. So the 25 arrests were made over the past 3 years. 8 have been charged, with 3 convicted, while the rest are still under investigation. So I want to just point this out. I don't think this is directly linked to I don't think this is directly linked to the, how can I put this, the Hong Kong movement against Chinese oppression. I don't think it's directly linked to that, but I would not be surprised if there was a link between the two. Obviously, Hong Kong over time will soon be a part of China. And while I don't know too much about this fraudulent crackdown, obviously this is something that they've been working on for quite a while, Hong Kong. So it is entirely possible that this is not really to do with China at all, and it's all down to Hong Kong, because this has been over the past 3 years. So this is not something that has been just come out of the blue sort of thing. This is something that the authorities in Hong Kong have been working on for quite some time, and we just haven't read up on it. So let me read the story for you guys. So Singapore, this is in Singapore, Hong Kong's authorities have arrested 25 people in the past 3 years for allegedly using forged academic qualifications to enroll in local universities. The city's acting minister has revealed in a reaffirmed continued efforts to curb the issue. Police have also identified 14 unscrupulous mainland Chinese agencies or intermediate suspects suspended of being involved in the offences, and have notified Chinese authorities, said the acting Secretary of Security Michael Chung Hang Yip in the Legislative Council on Wednesday. Chung was responding to a question from legislators Kang Jeng Wong, who asked for a tally of how many people used false information to apply for study in Hong Kong. Chung cited cases of unscrupulous and unlawful intermediaries in mainland China solidifying businesses by spreading rumours about Hong Kong's various talent admission schemes, even going as far as falsifying academic qualifications. That's pretty strong. And in July, Hong Kong arrested 2 people over an admission scandal involving about 30 postgraduate students, all Chinese, at the University of Hong Kong's HKU Business School. And these are all Chinese as well. The case caught the public eye in late May when HKU announced that it had made a police report after conducting an internal investigation. At the time, the HKU Business School dean reportedly said as many as 100 students may have been involved. That's very worrying. Since the January of 2022, 25 people have been arrested for allegedly using bogus credentials to secure spots in local universities. Shared Chang, and 8 were charged and 3 were eventually convicted. The maximum penalty handed over down was 17 weeks jail. Those convicted have had their visa or entry permits deemed invalid by immigration officials. The 17 not charged are still under investigation. It is an offence in Hong Kong for any person or company to provide false information or falsely represent an applicant for visa or entry permit applications. The maximum penalty is 14 years jail and a $150,000 Hong Kong dollars fine. The Immigration Department has put in place mechanisms for assessing each visa or entry permit application under the talent administration schemes in a rigorous manner, says Chung. Additionally, those found to have obtained their visas or entry permits into Hong Kong via legal means that they will have their visas or entry permits voided by the law. They will also be repatriated back to their place of origin. Even if the person has obtained the rights of abode in Hong Kong, it will be declared invalid according to the law, and he will be subject to removal back to its place of origin, he said Chung. Citing the city's educational bureau, Chung said that officials have reminded people who intend to study in Hong Kong to not easily and blindly believe claims of guaranteed admission from third-party agencies. He added upon discovery of any violations, post-secondary institutions will take immediate and decisive disciplinary action, including rescinding admission offers or expulsion, and refer the case to the law enforcement agencies. So, as a desperate attempt to try and get on these courses, get on these to studies, it seems perhaps the levels perhaps are a bit too much for certain people, and it looks like some Chinese people have looked at this as an opportunity to try and build up qualifications for themselves to skip past the queue, sort of thing, from the looks of it here. But it looks like this scheme may be getting better before it gets worse, possibly. But it obviously, like I said, it's been going for 3 years, this one, so it's not something that's been kind of popped up out of the blue. They've been something they've been working on for quite a while, obviously working in cooperation with the Chinese government as well. So I imagine that that over time that they will crack down on more of this over time. Yeah. So guys, we're going to take a little break. We've got 3 more stories to cover here on the World's News Round. But before I do, I've got a funny video to break things down a little bit in between bits. I hope you guys find this video funny. It's one of those impersonation ones. This is from the guy Austin Nasio, and the headline of the video, which is basically on Twitter, is that Zuckerberg third wheels Trump and Elon. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Make sure I've got it on the right one for you guys. Yeah. Let me just make sure adjust the camera a little bit just so you can see. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, then I'm thinking we colonize Mars. Ha ha ha.
You know, you're so smart, Elon. Good boy.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Hey, what's up, guys?
Excuse me, can we help you, amphibious-looking man?
I was just thinking it would be super cool if we all hung out and chilled. Yeah, just ignore him. He'll get scared and run away.
My computer's working just fine, thank you. I don't remember calling the Geek Squad.
Come on, let me hang. I can be pretty cool and fun. Give him this.
Here you go, little fella, now run off.
Thank you, but I don't want sauce. I want to chill with you guys. Mm-hmm, yeah, sure, Zuck. We're certainly down to chill.
Yes, I'm about to press the chill button. I'm pressing it, look.
Intruder.
Hey, what's
Intruder.
going on? This isn't chill.
Intruder.
It appears there's a poison dart in my neck. Yeah, anyway, so I was saying,
Mark Zuckerberg trying to fit in with the with the MAGA. It's just like, no, you're not part of us. No, you will not be a part of us. No, but I gave you guys money. No, you will not be. We're not gonna friend you. That's not how it works. Oh dear. Guys, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p or 199 membership. Being a member gets you access to custom emojis, and being a 199 member gets you access to early content as well. Other perks that you get for being a member, whatever level, is also access to membership community posts, and whenever you comment on my videos, I always give a response. Sometimes it takes a few days for me to respond to them. So thank you to anyone who has been a YouTube member or is a YouTube member or considers becoming a YouTube member. It is greatly appreciated. Other ways you can financially support me is by buying me a coffee or joining Patreon. Both those links are in the description, as well. Do check out the links tree option down below in the description. It's called the links tree. If you click that, takes you to all my social medias, as well as things like the Snowflake server, where it's our political hub that I run, and everybody's welcome to join as long as you're not a jerk. Everybody's welcome to join our Discord community on there as well, and as well as I do other things outside of the political landscape if anybody is interested as well. So do feel free to check that out, and thank you so much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. So this next one I've got for you guys, let me make sure I got the right, that's not right. Yeah, that's not right. There we go. I think I need to, apologies guys. Apparently the text was not in the right place. I need to fix the text, because otherwise you won't be able to see it. Now, you won't be able to see the banner because it's quite big, but I want you guys to be able to see it. It's because of the way Middle East and I does their articles, guys. So, this one from them. Syria will establish strategic relations with Turkey, says the HTS leader. So, Ahmed al-Sharida tells a Turkish newspaper that his victory in Syria is also a success for Ankara. I hope so. I hope that they do something to stop the fighting that's still taking place between the Kurdish and Turks in the northeast of Syria. The fact they've obviously spoken to a Turkish newspaper, that says something. I don't know if they've had discussions with Erdogan, or if they've reached out to the Turkish government. I don't know if they have, but obviously because of the long history between the Kurds and Turkey, there is a long, deep history here. And it's a bloody one as well. I'm not sure how they're going to balance this. But yeah, ideally, I would like ideally, I'd like the bloodshed to stop, the fighting. But the Kurds just want their own state, which they will not get. But they can be a part of Syrian society. They can be a part of that, at least, and they can contribute to a future in Syria. But I just hope that, while I hope Turkey does find a resolve and stops this, as long as the Kurds do too, because it is a both-way system on this conflict that has been going on there, and is still going on. So I'm going to butcher some names, so I apologize in advance. So Hagid Talib al-Sharim, that's HTF leader Ahmed al-Shariga, told a Turkish newspaper on last Wednesday that Syria would develop a strategic relationship with Turkey going forward. Sharida, better known by his nom de guerre, Abu Mohammed Jodi, said the Syrians who sought refuge in Turkey have been treated better than anywhere else. I hope Syria does not forget this kindness, the HTE leader told Turkish newspaper Yeni Safik. There will be strategic relations. Turkey has many priorities in the reconstruction of the new Syrian state, he added. There will also be mutual commercial relations. We trust Turkey when it comes to transferring its experience in economic development to Syria. Sharida added that the success of the revolution in Syria is also a cause for celebration for the Turkish people. This victory is not only for the people of the Syrian people, but also of the Turkish people, he said. Turkey hosts nearly 3 million Syrian refugees. Turkish officials said the total number of Syrians who have stayed in the country at some point is closer to 5 million. Anika believes that the new Syrian government must engage with all regional countries, including those in the Gulf, where suspicions of Islamic-orientated movements run high. When asked whether he intends to spread the revolution to other Islamic countries, Sharida said his movement has no right to interfere in the affairs of other nations. We have no intentions of taking on tasks beyond our capabilities, such as solving all the problems of the Islamic world, which would divert us from our primary responsibility to our own people, he said. You will strive to establish a developed relationship with all countries in a way that benefits our nation. So this is what he has said in the Turkish paper. But obviously, I would like to think that perhaps something will come of this, something good overcome of this. Like, again, this is another indication that I've seen, I've heard quite a lot of positive things from Syria so far, still. And I'm still keeping my feet firmly on the ground on it, because I know still many, many people believe that it's going to blow up in Syria's face at some point, what's happening. And I hope not. I seriously hope not. And I hope when the government finally forms fully in March, I believe is when it's going to be, then we will see, obviously, over time, how Syria does, how it responds to Israel, how it establishes what its relationship will be with Turkey, and those across its other borders as well, like Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see over time how those relationships are done. But we still have to be a bit patient. I know people are very much jumping the gun, and we still have to kind of see over time, see how things are. So at the moment, it seems to be Turkey seems to be like, okay, we hear what you're saying, but we're still being cautious about it, and I think they have a right to be cautious about it, understandably so. I think that's really, really important for them. This is an interesting story. It's been a while since I covered anything from Latin America. This one is from the BBC. So Los Zetas cartel boss has been rearrested in Mexico after US jail time. So I'm going to read a bit more into it before I share my thoughts with you guys. So the founder of the feared Los Zetas drug cartel has been deported to Mexico after serving a lengthy jail sentence in the United States. Oscar Cardeles Gilligan, 57, led Los Zetas until 2003, when he was cornered by Mexican soldiers near his hometown of Matamoros. Under his leadership, the group became one of the most powerful and brutal hit squads in the Mexican drug wars. U.S. immigration officials handed Cardelsians over to Mexican police at the Otze border crossing, where he was quickly rearrested and taken to El Alpano maximum security jail in Mexico State. The Mexican prosecutor said he had been arrested on charges of murder and organized crime dating back to his time as one of the most powerful drug lords in Mexico. Cardeles Gilligan made his criminal career in the Gulf drugs cartel in the 1990s, reportedly not shying away from having his allies killed to rise to the top, a practice which earned him the nickname of Maga Amos, that's Spanish for killer of friends. But what he became infamous for was recruiting members of Mexico's elite special forces and using them as hitmen and enforcers in the Gulf cartel. The law enforcers turned contract killers became known as Los Zetas. The brutal methods they used, such as decapitating and disassembling their victims, quickly spread terror through the northeastern part of Mexico, which was their stronghold. But by the early 2000s, Cartel Gilligan was one of the most wanted men in Mexico. Mexican security forces managed to apprehend him in his home state of Tamaulipas in 2003 after a bloody gun battle. Aware of the power of the gang leader wielded in the area, the security forces quickly threw him to the capital, Mexico City, where he was put into pre-trial detention. In 2007, he was extradited to the United States, and there he was charged with not just with trafficking tons of cocaine into the US, but also with threatening to assault and murder federal agents. He pleaded guilty in 2010 and was sentenced to 25 years in jail. Having served large parts of his sentence, he was released in August of 2024 from federal prison in Telluride, Indiana, and handed over to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This paved the way for his deportation to Mexico on Monday. Mexican prosecutors said there were 7 federal cases still open against Cardeles Gilligan, and he could be sentenced to a total of more than 700 years in prison if found guilty on all charges. Well, something tells me that he's not going to live for 700 years to come out again. That's quite a lot of federal cases against him, and obviously just reading of some of the things that this man did. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, he's not going to see daylight again. You know, that's someone that's very cold, very brutal, and obviously I don't cover much in the drug cartels, but when you see stories like these and you see about some of the things that these drug lords do, it's pretty horrific, pretty brutal, and it is very violent, and it's just something that is completely out of control, and it's almost embedded into Mexican society. The drug cartels, it's embedded into Mexico's society. And the question I suppose people will ask, well, how do you untangle such a thing? You can't really cut the branch. I mean, it's you know, I think even if you just cut off the head, someone just will come in. So it's a very difficult situation that has been around for decades and decades that Mexico have had. They've never really had a solution to it. I'm not sure what the solution would be, and obviously we're reading this from the other side of the world. I do hope one day Mexico finds a solution to this. I do hope Mexico does, because so many innocent people suffer, and so many innocent people die being part of these gangs and getting involved in these gang warfare. Many people die from drug overdose as well, whether it's there in Mexico or those in the US that it gets smuggled to. I do hope there is one day a solution will come for this. I really, really do. I'm not just saying that. The last story I've got for you guys is from the Kiev Independent. So Ukraine's parliament is passing a bill dissolving medical commissions after the corruption scandal. So, as you guys know, a reminder, there is still corruption within Ukraine's government, within Ukraine's politics, within Ukraine's society. Despite everything that's going on with the war, there is still corruption, and it's still problematic. And without a doubt, there has been quite a cleansing of corruption since the war began. There has been quite a lot of cleanup. There has been a lot of cleanup. There has been a lot of people being held accountable. There is still some of it happening. You know, Ukraine was embroiled in so much of it beforehand. And my general hope is that they do get to a point where they can push a lot of this out. But the problem is that it's almost next to impossible, because there's always going to be someone somewhere in Ukraine's circles that will be working in the interest of Russia or in the interest of their own. Unfortunately, there are always people who are greedy. And do I ever see Ukraine becoming clean? Absolutely not. I mean, we're sure as hell not clean here in the UK. So let me read this short story. So the Ukrainian parliament on December the 19th adopted a bill dissolving the system of medical examination commissions, the MSEC, for the determining the severity of disabilities. So President Volodymyr Zelensky issued a decree in October to disband the commission after several officials were accused of using corrupt schemes to acquire falsified disability certifications. A total of 259 members of parliament voted in favour of the bill. Tegyar Zelensky, a member of the opposite Holos party. Obtaining disability status through medical examination commissions allows one to avoid military service and receive a higher pension, among other social benefits. So yeah, this is of course linked to Ukrainian soldiers who may be trying to avoid being called up to the army as well. So starting January the 1st, Ukraine will introduce new expert commissions in major hospitals for assessing people's medical status based on new modern systems, Zelensky has said. The system of medical and social expenditures that currently exists in Ukraine was formed before Ukraine gained independence. It does not meet the current challenges that the country faces during the armed aggression by the Russian Federation, nor the current approaches to establishing disability adopted in the world. The explanatory note to the draft law read. The bill authors expects that the new system will help create a transparent procedure for assessing the needs of the applicants. The replacement of commissions is expected to reduce the administrative burden and help reduce appeals against the decision. The draft law has to be signed by the President before becoming law. Following the National Security and Defense Council meeting on October 22nd, the Security Service of Ukraine's SBU head, Valer Muskis, said the SBU had exposed corruption schemes at medical examination commissions in 2024, resulting in the cancellation of 4,106 fake disability status certificates. Manning added that 64 officials at medical examination commissions have been charged with committing crimes, while another 9 suspects have been convicted. According to Zelensky's October decree, all commissions in Ukraine will be eliminated by the 31st December 2024. Ukraine's Prosecutor General Adrian Kloskos submitted his resignation on October 22nd, following the reports of prosecutors illegally obtaining disability status. Indeed. I'll cover one more story because I've only got 15 minutes. I'm going to cover one more story here. So this is on today on the December the 19th. Russian attack kills 1 and injures 8 in Ukraine over the past day. So Russian attacks across Ukrainian regions killed at least 1 civilian and injured at least 8 other people over the past day, regional authorities have reported. Ukrainian air defense shot down 45 of the 85 Shellard-type drones and other unmanned aerial vehicles launched by Russia overnight, the Air Force had reported. 40 drones were reportedly lost across Ukraine thanks to electronic warfare countermeasures. Russia also attacked Ukraine with Kh-59/69 cruise missiles and 2 ICBM ballistic missiles, according to the statement. In Chernihiv Oblast, Russian shelling of the town Simonskaya injured a police officer and 16-year-old boy. Governor Vasily Klaus had reported. A house was also damaged. 4 people were injured during a Russian attack in the village of Talarisky in Kharkiv Oblast on the evening of December the 18th, according to the regional governor, Olas. And the victims included 3 women aged 57, 62, 75 and 64-year-old man. 9 houses were destroyed. And in Kherson Oblast, 1 person was killed and 2 injured in Russian strikes, Governor Oskar Proskin had reported. 3 high-rise buildings, 11 houses and an outbuilding were damaged. Russia launched a missile attack against the city of Kaliningrad in the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast overnight on December 19th, damaging a hospital, school and 2 9-story buildings and a shop. Governor Sersky Laska said no casualties were reported. Russian forces also carried out a missile strike in the town of Rumy in Sumy Oblast, damaging 9 residential buildings but inflicting no casualties, authorities have reported. I'm not going to read all these names. Okay, I will try to. Dcheskovy, Kamerovsky, Kiev, Kranolog, Luskets, Melavavko, Polvia and Zaporizhzhia Oblast also came under attack, but no casualties were reported there. Is there any other stories worth covering? Not really there. They're not really directly related to Ukraine. So those are just a small report there on what's been happening in Ukraine over the past day as well. I will just say, obviously, with regards to the last story, it's obviously not just about corruption, but those trying to avoid, potentially those trying to pay out of people, trying to bribe people into potentially having a disability so that they don't need to serve on the front line, because there are deserters in Ukraine trying to avoid getting into the war, and Ukraine needs every single body they can have, able body that they could possibly have. So I do hope that that it does help in doing so. But like I said, when I talked about this war, like, I do think it is going to wind down. I do think it will start winding down, but we will wait and see. Obviously, that every day passes, there's another soldier died, another landmine put down. Innocent people are unfortunately killed in this conflict as well. There are still all the children that were taken from Ukraine by the Russians as well. They were taken from their homes and lands into Russia as well, and many of those children have not been returned by Russia as well, which is a very dark thought, I'm afraid, to share. So just before we wrap up here, guys, I've got one more funny video for you guys, and it's a fire and arms one. It's kind of related to what we've been talking about anyway, so it makes sense to cover a video like this, all things considered. It's from the Foil Arms and Hogs YouTube channel. It is how to avoid mobilization in Russia.
You have been selected for mobilization.
Yes, but I cannot go because I have a disability. Back is banjaxed.
We take them.
I'm 65 years of age. I know, right?
We take them.
You take. I am criminal. I am criminal. Despicable human being. So you don't.
We take them.
I cannot go because I am Ukrainian. You see, so the conflict of interest there.
We take them.
And my aim though, is up. It's down. It's like you should see my toilet bowl. It is.
We take them.
I'm insane. I'm insane.
It's okay. We take them.
I have lots of STIs.
We take them.
I am a coward.
A coward.
People call me coward.
We take them.
I am American spy.
American
spy now.
No.
So I am the last person that you want to
No, we take them.
You take them. I have something in the oven. And it something.
Okay.
I have a wash on.
Okay.
I'm allergic to bullets. I'm allergic to bullets. They flare up.
Okay.
I could die from a bullet.
Tell us on the way.
Bullets
Tell
can
us
kill
on
me.
the way. Get your things and come on.
No, please, just get my flag.
Okay. Come on.
Just get my flag. Okay.
Doomed up. I mean, at least they could turn something like that into funny. But I do feel for both Russian and Ukrainian people who are forced to fight and don't want to fight against their will. But yeah, it is funny how they keep coming up with stories there, story after story. I'm a criminal. We take them. I'm a Russian spy. Oh, you're a Russian spy, are you? Oh, okay. We'll definitely take you then. Oh, it's a funny one. Yeah. So guys, I want to say a massive thank you if you've watched all the way through. Thank you guys for leave your comments down below what you guys thought of some of the stories that we covered here on the World's Newsround. Talking about the Houthis being attacked by Israeli airstrikes in Yemen, Trump and the chaos around the bipartisan budget deal. We also talked about civilians once again losing their lives in Sudan. Hong Kong arresting 25 people in unscrupulous agency university administration for crackdown. We also talked about Syria establishing strategic relations with Turkey. We also talked a little bit about Los Zetas cartel boss being rearrested in Mexico as well. And we covered one or two stories from the Kiev Independent with regards to Ukraine's parliament bill and some of the latest news there of lives sadly being lost. Let me know your thoughts and more on all these stories down in the comments section below. But just before I go, if you haven't already, please hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.